Well, hello and good evening. Well, it is evening here in Australia. We're here for week 4 of the WTRL Zwift Racing League, and it is the APAC that kicks off the Community League. I'm joined by Anna Russell. Anna, you're a bit of a professor and connoisseur of the old Zwift world. And tonight we're racing around Yorkshire. I think it's one of your favourites.
It is my favourite course, Kate. It's no flat piece of road in sight. It's a race of attrition. There's a whole lot of questions around bike selection that I've been going massive deep dive in for, I'd say, the last like 4 or 5 days. I'm not even sure what I'm going to ride tomorrow, so I'll be interested to see what people are out there on tonight.
Well, you're a bit of a geek of all things bike and Zwift and figuring that sort of stuff out. And I've also figured out that the more you like a course, the less I like a course. So it's a nice little yin yang we have between us. Listen, the key climbs come pretty early. I think straight out of the pens, we might see a few moves. So while it's 2 laps and 28K of the 14K circuit, I think the riders will want to be warmed up and ready to go.
Yeah, when they first come out of the gates, you've got a right-hand turn, then you've got a long, long drag at about 4%. And you saw earlier today with the Prem divisions, that's where some teams just go off the front. They may not attack, but they'll start pushing around that 5 to 6 watts a kg and just start dropping people off the back like flies.
Well, we can talk about bikes when we jump in and see what some have chosen. Let's take a bit of a look at the standings so far to get a bit of a picture of where things are at. So we'll take a look at the women here. And in the A division, it is Zed Sun. They've got quite a lead now, 18 points ahead of Aero 1 on 40 points. So while there's a reduced number of teams, there's a very, very high quality of field in that one. So we should see some exciting racing there. Anna, the Division B.
Yeah, it looks like AHDRL, the Caffeines, just a point ahead of TBR Smile On, so that's going to be a good battle tonight for sure.
All right,
And then
let's
there's the
take
BRT
a
Devil
look.
Kittens as well, not yet on the board with their points.
Well, and hopefully as the season goes on, these teams will continue to start to participate. Let's take a look at the Division C. We've got AHDRL, the Australian Hump Day Riders ladies crew. They're taking the top 4, starting with We Ate the Cake, then the Comets, Spin Mafia and the Cruisettes. Let there be no ambiguity. They are not racing together. They are very much racing against each other. Cycling Mums Australia, the Queen Bees are sitting in 5th, Herd of Bilbies in 6th, Rave C, then some more Cycling Mums Australia with their Girl Gang and the Cryogen Belfields, who are yet to take the start line.
And with the D category, we have the AHDRL Degenerates, followed by the AHDRL Diamonds, although the Degenerates have a very, very strong lead. CMA Girl Power in 3rd, and the CMA Velo Girls in 4th, with a couple of BRT teams yet to get on the scoreboard.
I love some of the names of these, the Inferno Kittens, the Pandora's Kittens, the Degenerates. I mean, I would normally think that's very Degrassi high of them. But it is good to see that they're having some fun with the naming there. Let's take a look at the fellas before we go down and watch the racing unfold, because we've got a bit of a ding-dong battle going on here between DPAC and Elite and Beast Mode crew, Anna.
Yeah, look at that. 1 point between them. But then you even look at 3rd and 4th. I mean, they're only 7 points back, and they're equal there with the Evo team and Team ZWC. So this has turned into a real ding-dong battle in this men's Division 1. Can't wait to see how that's going to pan out tonight. You've got Cryogen in 5th, World Elite Zwifters in 6th, Smoother Z Sun in 7th, WMZ All-Stars in 8th, Sicily Stefanelli in 9th, and TBR 54 Tooth in 10th.
We keep calling them Smoother Z Sun, but I just read that and went smooth as Z Sun. So maybe we need to rethink that one. It's like every week we learn a different team name. The Evo Barbarians are sitting at the top of the Division B, ahead of the Dirty Sprockets. The Blowflies in 3rd. It's pretty tight between the top 4, actually. Vision APAC sitting in 4th. Cryogen Etna in 5th. TV Gungnia in 6th. WMZ Bumble in 7th, Tune Bike Works, and ZHQ Ravens. They are tied on 37 points in 8th and 9th, and the Z Sundries are sitting in 10th.
And Div C here, you got AHDR Chances in first, 1 point back. These are really tight battles at the top. Cryogen Altide, third is Sportive and Bear Rulers. I love their kit. Hopefully we'll get a look at that tonight. TBR 46 Tooth in fourth, TT1 Carbos in fifth, the AHDR Chargers in sixth, Valhalla Levitine in seventh, WMZ Chasers in eighth, Evo Flux 1 in ninth, and AHDR Choppers in 10th.
All right, now let's take a look at the Ds. We've got the WMZ Dodgers in the lead there, but they are equal on points with the Diesel. So it doesn't matter what category we're looking at. There's some pretty tight races happening. The Cryogen Mount Hotham, they are in third, Delta in fourth, and Team Azerbaijan, they are yet to take the start line. Now let's jump straight into the racing images here because it's a pretty short race tonight, so we don't want to lose any of the action. Last week was pretty epic with the Innsbruck after party. Anna, you said on our stream that you were rather looking forward to it at the beginning. By the end, I feel like there was a little bit more dread going on. This week is a very different kind of course, and it is much, much shorter. So it is quite a different story for the athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to eat my words last week because as I was halfway up the Innsbruck climb, I ended up pretty much crying on Discord saying I don't want to do this anymore. And if anyone watched my live stream would have heard that. So you almost forget that you're live streaming yourself while you're having a mini breakdown. So I'm not going to say that, I'm really looking forward to this race because I know it's very, very hard, but it's also quite fun. It's going to be quite tactical with the teams, just with 2 rounds of the Yorkshire KOM points and then the sprints, and you've got those fastest time segments as well. So a lot of opportunities and a lot of sort of different ways the teams could nab points, which is exciting on this course. There's no chance to recover really that you can see here in the pack. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah, there literally is barely a metre of flat. And while some of the climbs, including that first one that they challenge straight out of the pens and then they'll go around that again on the next lap, it's not that it's that steep, but actually it's kind of the kind of climb that they can move pretty quickly on, or what I would call a big ring climb. And sometimes they are the absolute worst because you can't even settle in and get into a rhythm. It's actually a lot of power has to go into trying to stay on the wheel through those ones because the speed is kept pretty high.
Yeah, and this QOM is an interesting one because halfway up it flattens out sort of around a roundabout, and you can really almost push a bit too hard and burn too many matches to get to that flat portion, and then people have maybe saved themselves a little bit, attack over you and really drill that last half. So there's a bit of finesse in how you race that QOM, and we'll see how these guys race it. I am interested in the fact that there's only 2 Tron bikes. This is a course that usually would, if you check out Zwift Insider, they would usually say to favour a Tron bike. I've got my own theories now, and this is what I've been deep diving a little bit, Kate, on actually whether the Tron is good in a bunch drafting, and also because these Zwift Racing League races are so team-based and you want to be going for specific QOM or sprints, if you're going for sprints today, you should be rocking that deep dish because you need all the slipperiness you can get, but then also it's a slight uphill finish drag, as well as having that QOM. So maybe a lighter kind of climbing setup is the way to go. And it looks like that's what a few of these riders have done. They've got lighter climbing bikes and not really deep wheels either.
Well, so let's just chat about that more for a second. And I feel like you saying you did a deep dive, for most people, they need to understand that that's like serious deep dive into the numbers. We've got 4 intermediate sprint points along the way here. The KOM, then the start-finish line, and 2 laps of that. It's not only first over the line, but it's also fastest segment. So those are more important than last season, those intermediates. How important how much of a difference do you think that those bike choices are making when we have such a small and select group in the women? It's such high quality, but from the very get-go, they have to be in the wind quite a lot. We're noticing a few aero helmets where season 1, Anna, the fashion police in us would have come out and mocked them a little bit for wearing the aero helmets. But I feel like those little kind of marginal gain 1%ers could actually make quite a big difference.
Yeah, people are understanding a bit more now that your setup does make a difference. And when you're looking at, uh, a QOM that is about 2.5 minutes to get to the top of, and maybe that climbing bike gives you a 3 second advantage, well, immediately you could have got the fastest timed segment or first across the line or both, and then you've got a huge chunk of points for your team. And then because you're racing with a team, if you've got a little bit less aero and ability to be in a draft on the downhill, you just work with your team. You just jump on the back of them and make sure that they look after you. And the ones with the disc wheels just pull you back up again. So, because it's a team dynamic and because of all these intermediary points, this bike selection is just becoming more and more important. And man, my garage, I mean, there are a few bikes in there now. I've probably got about 25. So, this is the kind of the testing you're out there doing, right? You're checking all these rigs and you might make some mistakes. We made a mistake today where a rider in the Prem division chose a really light setup for this climb, but she was so light herself that any time it went downhill, she was just sort of dragging off the back. So you live and you learn, right?
Well, I love that, they say the amount of bikes that you need is N plus one, N being the number you currently have. And you always need that one extra. I feel like Zwift is kind of the cheats way to achieve that. There's nobody that can probably afford 20 bikes in their actual garage, but you head into the Zwift world and you really can kind of really get into it and dive a little bit deeper, because I do think in real life, unless you are racing in a professional team, and even then you're limited by the equipment that they will provide you with their sponsors, there's not a lot of people who spend the time really diving into what the different options are for different races. Most people end up buying something that will mostly favour what they want, but will kind of take them across a few different ones. So they can have a little bit of fun with that. We're now over on the bees and watching them, and they are descending down here. It looks like they're getting a little bit of recovery, and you think, oh, this part isn't too bad. But actually, even on this kind of slope, Anna, there's a few perils that they can come over. One that we've seen, and we see it a lot on Richmond because it's such a tough course, is getting into the power tuck but not coming out quick enough.
Mm. Yeah, that's also something I've kind of been deep diving the last few days. Feels like I completely don't have a life, but I do. I just the super tuck on this course is really, really risky, because on the really steep downhill that these guys just did, there's no flat after the downhills on this course. They go downhill and then they kick straight up. And I saw a few men and women getting dropped today, just coming out of the super tuck a little bit early. And there's about a 3 second delay on it. So once you start pedaling again in real life, your avatar is still in their super tuck, so it has a little bit of time to catch up. So unless you know the game really, really well, this is a risky one to get in that super tuck. And then you look at the downhill going into the QOM. Again, that QOM, as soon as that downhill's finished, they take a hard left and they hit a pretty much 7%. If you haven't come out of that super tuck, then you're gone. Like, you're pretty much out of the race. So, I've said to my riders, if you're really confident in the super tuck, go for it, because you will get a bit of speed gain. But if you don't come of it quick enough, see you later.
I feel like we should have discussed pre-show, Anna, what all this deep diving was, but you were busy vacuuming and we were busy watching you vacuum. So, so no time to talk the technicalities.
Who's more weird there?
Yeah. We'll try and get that footage up onto YouTube if you're not careful. What I did notice was your beautiful sparkling bikes in the background. Now, we've got quite a big bunch here, but it is of two predominant teams. We've got TBR Smilon, the big ring, and a lot of this course actually will be spent in the big ring, despite a couple of big climbs. A lot of those little micro ones are big ring climbs, and we've also got the caffeines. Teamwork. Now, I look at this, Anna, and I just think this is where you have to start playing one team off against the other and have no dead spots. So have no moments where you're riding under 200 watts and cruising along, but instead really use the strength in numbers to have a go. We've got Monique here, who comes up on screen as M on Hitter, which I think is a great screen name. She's really reliable. She's got a pretty good acceleration on her and is pretty savvy in knowing how to cause a gap. And open that up and cause a bit of a reaction. I would love to see, um, I would love to see them throwing that out there a little bit and mixing it up, and just putting each other under a bit of stress. We're going to head back to the A's in a second because they are heading on to that KOM climb in a Tidge. And it's about 5.5% up Harlow Hill. It averages only about 4%. But sorry, the forward climb, pardon me. It averages about 6%. There are some shallower sections, but it's about 1.2 K. I reckon this is a pretty dangerous point in the course.
Yeah.
But Anna, given that they do 2 laps, do you expect them to really make the most of it on this first lap, or to maybe wait until the second one?
No, I think this first lap's where the break's got to be made. I see that we're following Grace Smith here, or we were just dropping off the pace. I do want to shout out to her family in Dublin, I think, in Ireland. So Grace doesn't actually live there anymore, but they all tune in and watch and use this as a bit of a catch-up. So shout out to the family in Ireland, and I hope you're enjoying the racing tonight. I think this first lap is more crucial than the second, because I think the first is where you've just got to make the breaks. This isn't a race like Innsbruck where you do the leg snapper and then you can kind of catch back on in all the flats. You just can't catch back on. And so if I was these teams, I'd be, like they're doing now, just jettisoning riders off the back, get this group really small, and then get enough of a gap around 30 seconds, I think would be good on this course. And then you can kind of pretty much go for all the sprints and the climbs after that, because there will be a smaller group. It is important to note too that they're just coming to the end of that QM there. It looks like Butterworth and Bemrose came over that in first and second. It flattens off at the top. It flattens off to around 1% for the last sort of couple of 100 meters. So you can put in a good sprint effort there as well. Just a bit of a tip for those out racing over the next week.
Well, doesn't Butterworth and Bemrose sound like delightfully British names on a British course this evening? They've got Aussie flags next to them, but you never know their heritage. So, very appropriate for tonight. It is interesting, these little gaps that have opened up. Danette Shaw has a lot of these names are the names that we just keep mentioning because week after week they turn up and they're super strong. We've flicked back over to the Bees now, who are also on that climb. We're looking at Lam Kong. She last week was really impressive and showed that she's got some pretty good climbing legs. But these gaps surprise me, actually. She's already got 8 seconds. That part doesn't surprise me. It's that back, nobody really appears to be in a group, because even when you see a 1 second gap and you think, oh no, they're together, 1 second is barely together. That's when in-game is screeching at you to close the gap. I'm sure they mean to be very motivating. It doesn't always come across like that when you get that message. That's the moment where you want to throw something at the screen. Like, you're like, I'm trying. I'm not scratching my nose. The gap isn't opening up because I'm not giving it a crack. Come on. But it is, so 1 second is genuinely a gap. And so when you're looking at people are looking at those time gaps, I think that's something to remember.
Yeah, it's I was DSing for our Prem team earlier today and desperately trying to tell a rider to close the gap. And when you look at their heart rates of 185, you're like, I know you're trying, but you've got to close that gap. You just got to push it even harder. So it is a horrible thing to hear, but you kind of don't have a choice. And this course, it's you've basically got to treat the top of that QOM like it's the finish line, because you've got this long kind of downhill drag here where you can get a little bit of a recovery. It does go straight up again after that. As we're looking at some of the C categories here, we've got We Ate the Cake A Reed with a teammate right on her wheel, which is awesome. Looks like she might be riding the Specialized Tarmac Pro, which is one of the better climbing bikes, bit of a red detailing there. I know I got called out that the red detailing did not match my yellow and green kit, but I won't be as harsh as Nathan was on me, and I'll say I will support their bike choice decision. If it gives them speed, that's good. But other than that, they are actually looking good with all matching shoes, socks, gloves, and everything. So hats off to We Ate the Cake. I like the extra effort there with all the accessories. And it looks like it's making a difference. They've picked those faster climbing bikes, and they're really dominating that. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So great job.
I mean, when you have that kind of dominance and they're all up the front, then a whole different dynamic takes over, doesn't it? Because then they're kind of, to a degree, they're supporting each other, won't necessarily chase each other, will do turns. But then it gets to a point where so many of them are at the front that it's kind of game on within the race. And I've been in a lot of situations, Anna, where that's kind of exactly the direction you're getting from the management is until this point, this is the plan. But after that, whoever's got the legs, it's a bit of game on. And I actually think that really helps these riders to keep developing. And that it's that then their chance to step up to the next league and the next division when they're getting to race so hard all week. We saw Jodie Hamilton for a second there. She's another name that keeps popping up because she's really consistent and her power is starting to push up into that kind of B category almost with her numbers. So that's been a really good improvement from her through this season already. So there she is there. She's looking pretty funky. She's got the Tron bike rocking. Has she got dreadlocks? That dreadlocks we're looking
And a
at? That's
BMX
pretty cool.
helmet. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's a look. Yeah, I'll
It
say
is,
it's
and
something.
and the yellow Mavic shoes. I feel like you'll have something to say about that, Anna.
Yeah, yellow shoes, purple socks, red gloves, BMX helmet, gold glasses. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to say about it.
Yeah.
Tron bike that's not quite matching the kit. The blues just aren't quite on point. So I like her pizzazz. I'm not sure I'll give that full style.
Well, she's quite a character, so I feel like maybe she's goading you a little bit on on that with the outfit. So good on her. Thanks, Jodie. I appreciate that for one. It is across all of the divisions we're seeing, and I love seeing it. A lot of personality shines through, and you hear it from people who don't know the esports world very well, and they're not too familiar with Zwift, and they're like, how do you watch avatars? And it's just a computer screen. But you're actually seeing as the seasons go on that people are really kind of getting quite comfortable in really personalizing them and making them very close to themselves rather than hiding behind an avatar. And I think that's been a real change, especially through the community leagues where people don't want to hide and be anonymous anymore. We're seeing people use their real names more. The hairstyles get changed up. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think there's definitely a sense of community coming out. I know in the league that I race in, there's only good feelings with us and the other teams. We're all sort of in it for a bit of fun and love the camaraderie. You want that competition and you want that sort of friendly competition as well. I love it. I did just see, just briefly there, the team, the Bilbies. I do want to mention that someone just sent me a photo of a Bilby because I wasn't quite sure what it looked like. So thanks for that, Stephanie White, on the Facebook Live. She'd said go Bilbies, and I wasn't sure what it looked like. So she sent a picture, probably kind of like a rabbit or a rat with rabbit ears. Is that a good description?
Rat with rabbit ears. Yes, I guess that is a good description. They are quite cute, actually. I think I mentioned to you last week that at Easter every year we have chocolate bilbies in the supermarkets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they make the chocolate bilbies look a lot cuter than a rat with rabbit ears. I can tell you that. They're a hit with the kids. I'll ship some over to New Zealand for your small humans at Easter
Thanks.
time, Anna. And they can get into
great.
the old chocolate bilby. I'm laughing. That's made me laugh, that description. That's fantastic.
We are seeing quite a few breaks here in the D category. It looks like a couple have just broken away from the Degenerates with CMA Velo Girls and another Degenerates rider here, Suzanne, trying to just bridge that gap. About 6 seconds behind the CMA rider, NG. And the others, it's just sort of blowing up. They're just riders everywhere with no groups, just ones and twos all around the road. So, it's actually AHDRL Diamonds and a Degenerates rider. So these two will not be working together.
Now we've got Deirdre Simpson there, and she's with Karen Hood. They're working pretty well together, but you're right. at first glance we're like, oh, they're from the same team, but they're actually not. And I think there's, in the kindest way possible, in this context, they're not teammates. They are definitely have loyalties for their different little squads and strategies that will then follow. But this kind of goes to show just how difficult the course is. That there has been some solid moves from Simpson and Hood, and now they are absolutely all over the shop in terms of time gaps. We normally talk about a 15-second gap being kind of the magic number where you can stay away. But you mentioned earlier that you reckon 30 seconds and you can feel super comfortable on this course.
Yeah, the reason I say 30 is sometimes, as you can see here, in G, she's managed to sort of bridge up here because it goes into these sort of 6% grades for just periods of time. If you really just drive it and put in a few hard pedal strokes, you can gain a lot more than you can on sort of a flat course sometimes, depending on those riders in the front. So yeah, I'd say this one, headband. Call out, love it. But yeah, I think just
literally midstream, you see a headband and you're like, oh, headband. It's like, I love lamp
that's
in Anchorman.
yeah, I know. That setup looks awesome. K Hood is getting full points from me tonight. But yeah, I think 30 seconds is a bit of the safer one on this course. It's so rolling, and you can get a little bit caught unawares if you just cruise up a hill a little bit and then you notice someone's caught up from behind. I do want to call out the fact they're coming up to the sprint, and this is a very technical, weird sprint. And this is why I think just going for it on that QOM is the best strategy, because as you can see, these guys probably aren't sprinters, but there's only two of them, so they're going to be first across the line 1-2. It's just a better way to go because the sprint is a bit bizarre. It sort of has a hard right that you see coming up, and it goes downhill, so you get a lot of momentum, and then you sort of have a curve to the left and then a curve to the right, so you never really see the finish line, so it's really, really hard to time it right. So this is where you want to have broken away earlier in the race.
Well, and in many ways, this provides a pretty good opportunity for them to learn kind of the craft of sprinting in Zwift and also the particulars of the course. Because as the seasons roll on, and we've been confirmed, we will have another season after season 2, but these courses keep repeating, and they are used in different settings and different times and different number of laps. But it really does pay to get some experience on these. And Simpson, well, she took no enemies there. She went not for first over, just for first over line, but also for fastest in segment. I think every time an athlete does that, they get to learn the sprint a little bit better. They get to understand even, and I don't know if you remember the first time you got out of your seat on Zwift. Can you remember the first time you got out of your seat on a trainer? How bizarre it felt? And you'd be surprised, even through these community leagues, how many of these ladies never get out of their seats, ever. And you tell them to, and they look mortified, like, oh, no, 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 I won't be doing that. And I reckon this is a really good chance to give it a bit of a go. Because, what's the worst that can happen? You feel a bit awkward and you end up sitting back down, but it's kind of fairly low risk. So when I see someone like Simpson take a big acceleration there and go for the sprint, I like to kind of visualize that she's really playing around with different gears and different ways to accelerate in game.
Yeah, I actually noticed through that sprint, her cadence had gone up to 125. So not sure if she was out of the saddle or what she was doing there. I know that the sprint is a bit of a sort of algorithm of cadence and power, so maybe that was something there. But yeah, that was an interesting little strategy that I saw there play out. I mean, she got a gap pretty quick, so obviously it worked for her. We've just gone back to the A's here. Wow, what a performance from Aero. Unreal. They've broken all of the Z Sun riders who are about a minute back. So I'm not sure how they've made this break. I'm assuming over that QOM, they've just all come together, and this is where you want to be. Like, this is how you want to race this course as a positive strength team-based competition. You want to all go for that QOM. You want to stick together, and you just want to drop everyone around you. So you've ended up with you guys all in front, and then now basically you can sweep up all the points in lap 2 and the finish line points. Perfect strategy from
And
Eero.
this is,
Good job.
yeah, it turns into a bit of a team's time trial, doesn't it? I'm surprised though because these Z Sun riders, they're so strong. Like Danette Shaw, um, week after week she performs, and so I am a bit surprised to see her struggling. But in saying that, I think they are doing so much racing at the moment that we are going to start to really see some form cycles of the riders, and when they are, you know, heavier training load. Perhaps they've just had a break. Perhaps they're super busy, doing their real life jobs of being doctors and lawyers and all that sort of stuff, which we know a lot of these athletes are, as well as multitasking with kids and what have you. And I find that interesting. We look at their numbers and it's very easy because you get so much data in Zwift, which is so cool to say, oh, we know that she is capable of X, Y, Z. But the reality of it is, it doesn't mean that every single week they're capable of that. So some of them are on the upswing of form and others are probably on the downswing of form. So we do need to take that into account a bit.
Yeah, this has been quite impressive though. So I think like we have seen the dominance of Danette Shaw and some of those other Z Sun riders. This is a really tough course, and if you're not feeling 100% and you're not totally on your game, you can get dropped really easily. And it's probably, I would say, the hardest course on Zwift, other than riding up Alp to Zwift or something. It's the hardest course if you get dropped to really make any inroads to get back on, unless you've got a group behind of about 20 who's catching a group of 3. But even then, there's so much up that you just can't. There's almost just no real draft benefit. There is a lot of bike chat going on over in the YouTube channel if anyone wants to jump on in and see what they're going to be racing. I thought I was the only one going full deep dive analysis on this, but there's a lot of chat on what people should be using. So I think I'm almost changing my mind as well. I think some of these lighter riders who are using the heavier, more aero bikes, they seem to be going pretty well. So I think the lighter you are, you actually don't need much of a light setup. So maybe that's what Aero's done well. I see most of the Aero team are on their Canyon Aero Road 2021s, which are more of a sort of aerodynamic, heavier frame. Potentially that's made a big difference on the QOM.
I think for people who have maybe been in the sport for a very long time, you're very familiar with the whole watts per kg concept and when that is most important and most appropriate, climbing, flat courses, lumpy courses, etc. But based on the conversation I had in our bunch ride this morning, and we've got the men A on the right of screen there, so a nice drone shot, nice, delightfully foggy, mucky Yorkshire weather there. So well done to the Zwift team for making that authentic. Is that there is still quite a general and vague misunderstanding of the relationship to watts per kg, course, etc. And so there are quite a lot of riders who just focus a lot on the watts per kg and don't really dive into the relevance of that. We've got a few little tech issues happening here, but we'll get that back up and going as soon as we can. There's a whole lot of inputs that go into live streaming with all this data and stuff, as we can imagine. So yeah, Anna, I think one of the conversations that we had on our ride this morning. Our ride guide is 1.3 to 1.8 watts per kg, and some of the ladies, we often have a bunch that goes a bit further in front, and they ride at about 2.5 watts per kg. Now, some of the ladies were like, "Oh, we can't do that, we can't hold that," but it was a completely flat ride, and so before they had even considered what that meant in the context of themselves, they were already kind of talking themselves out of being able to even stay with the main group, let alone that front group. Now, that was just a community ride. I understand that. But I do think that in these community leagues, we do have a lot of people that are not only new to racing, but are quite new to the sport of cycling. So they don't intrinsically understand all of these concepts that underpin all of this data that gets thrown at you. And I think when you jump on your bike and go and race around a crit track and you don't have a lot of info, it's really simple. Can you keep going? Can you not? Can you keep up or not? But when you start getting all of this data thrown at you, it's almost an overload in some ways, I think. And sometimes you've got to dial it back down and just go out and race.
Yeah, I think I mean there are some races where I just even put sticky tape up over my power data because who cares? Who cares what power you're riding? You're either with the
Yeah,
front group
yeah,
or you're not.
yeah,
Like there's no
yeah.
point sort of it's all good in training, but yeah, when you come to a race day like this, you just can't look at your numbers so much, which is really hard sometimes because they're all up there in front of you, but maybe tape over them. And just go by feel, race with you know, a bit of guts and a bit of determination and just forget about all the numbers, which is easier said than done. But I think you're right. There's so much you can see up on your dashboard that sometimes you just need to tune it all out.
Yeah, and I think Mark Cavendish is the most famous one who used to put black tape across the top of his SRM because he just didn't want to see it. I mean, he knew what he could do when he was having a good day or not, and that was what mattered. How wonderful our tech team! Thank you, fellas. We've got these pictures back. They're absolute geniuses, Anna. So it's great to have these pictures back now. We're looking at the men here. The men's A Morgan from Evo. We've had a pretty tight scenario going on over in this category here. Uh, Beast Mode and DPAC are the two big ones. Oh, and Anna, I have to mention as well that your fella Sam Lindsay, your New Zealand rider,
Oh,
I saw last week he threw out on social media that if he wins, he'd like you to give a rendition of the anthem. So have you warmed up the vocal cords just in case?
so we've actually come to a little agreement. I said if he wins, I'll do the haka. So
Oh,
he I'm almost
heavens,
not
we'll
sure if
have
I
to
want
take
him
a
to win.
wide shot for that one.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll get vacuum cleaning tonight and the haka. I mean, what a
Oh my
combination.
goodness me.
Um,
That's your highlight reel
but
right there.
exactly. So yeah, he's been having a little bit of fun. He's been racing extremely well though. If we remember, he actually featured in the video I did last week of a cool tactic I saw, and it was between himself and McKee, who I'm not sure is out there racing. Hopefully he is. They did a great little strategy on the Innsbruck climb where it flattened off a little bit, and McKee just kind of got a bunch of people stuck behind him on like a sticky draft, and Sam Lindsay attacked off the front and got a huge gap. So even though he didn't win, he had a cryo rider who rode over the top of him just at the end. It was an awesome strategy. So these guys have put in their homework, and yeah, they've got some exciting racing.
Well, it's been interesting this season. We've seen Beast Mode come into the picture. They're a German-based team. They've got a combination of road racers, mountain bikers, triathletes, rowers, and so they're quite an interesting team. And they've been trying a few different tactics. And as we saw last week, especially on the leg snapper before they headed up that big climb in Innsbruck, they're not afraid to give it a bit of a crack, and they've got some solid watts in their legs as well. So they are definitely a team to watch today because I feel like each week they're evolving a little bit more. But DPAC, what can I say? And I reckon they've really stepped up. I'm not sure if in week 1 and 2 they really saw the challenge as much as we could kind of see it unfolding. But last week they took a massive step up to kind of hit back, and I was like, game on! This is really exciting now.
Yeah, it's I love these little battles between teams right at the top, and they've got other teams, nipping at their heels as well, not far behind. Evo Savages being one there in that lovely magenta kit, very easy to see. And the Beast Mode riders, I mean, new kids on the block, but they've got some serious firepower. They had a bit of a bad performance last week, just not many of them coping too well with that long climb. But I think this course suits them. The punchy sort of 2-minute climbs, a lot of downhill, a lot of sort of technicality, as we do just see a couple of those beast mode riders just drifting off the back, but hopefully they'll get back on. We've got Hats there as well, one of the professional riders, Heidemann, another professional rider from beast mode. So yeah, they've got a lot in their arsenal, that's for sure.
Well, Heidemann actually made one of the best moves I saw last week. It didn't work for him, but I still really liked it, and that was to try and bridge across like halfway up the climb, and he nearly did it, and he closed a huge gap quite effectively on the kind of false flat in the middle of the climb. I mean, evidently it took too much of a toll and he then was completely out of contention. But I liked the fact that they even threw it out there and made that move. That kind of showed me that they're not passive at all in this race. And no matter whether the course suits them or not, they'll be quite aggressive in their hunt. When it comes down to just pure numbers, these riders, a lot of them could be very successful in the Premier League. So we're talking about an exceptionally high caliber of field here. And today's race will be less than 40 minutes for these guys. So it's a bit shorter and sharper than last week. And I think that can really go into their tactics as well, knowing that it's not going to stretch out over the 60-minute mark.
Yeah, but you look at these heart rates as we're going through some of the field. I mean, high 160s, 170s. This is just a 180 there from one of the Z Sun riders off the front. I mean, this just shows the brutality of this course. There's no real chance to recover. Oh, there's a setup that I'm interested by. Disc wheel, slippery frame, looks like a Canyon Aero road. So almost every single rider in this A men's division is on a Tron, but I did just see a disc wheel there, which apparently does put in a better time on this course. And they are seeming to do pretty well in that draft. So yeah, let's see how they go by the end of this race. Everyone else, I would say 99% of this field is on Tron bikes, which says something for the strategy they've got going here. A lot of people who are just going for an all-rounder kind of a mix-up, not anyone particularly going for climbs or sprints only, probably just wanting to make the selection on this climb coming up, which their first time up the KOM. They'll go down this big downhill. A few people getting into the super tuck. You know, they've got to make sure they come out of that not too late, and then they'll take that hard left-hand turn, and then boom, straight up to around 7 or 8%.
Well, interesting, when they hit the beginning of that downhill, they had about 56 riders. On the downhill, they've actually lost a couple, and we're now down to under 50 riders. You don't often see a big reduction like that, over 10% of the bunch happening on a downhill. So that's pretty interesting.
Ooh.
But look at these orange numbers happening. So they are in absolute full gas, and it's beast mode that have strung it out at the top. We've got Seb and Emmerich pushing the power, and a little break is opening up. Fabian Devola, we know that he's got a lot of power as well, but that gap, it just cannot afford to open at all, or this will be difficult. I mean, this is a case, I think, Anna, they're going up the forward climb now. It's about 1.2K. It's very much power focused. Like you said, it's under a couple of minutes. So it suits the power riders more than the climbers necessarily. This could be very, very dangerous. And Emmerich is really opening this gap up here. He does have Sam Lindsay on his wheel. You better ready yourself for the harker, my dear. And this is a dangerous move.
Yeah, but what he's done is that mistake I talked about a little bit at the start, which is you just push the first half of that climb too hard. It flattens off for a little bit around that roundabout, and then the second part that they're on now kicks up again, and that tends to be where everybody drops their power up. So I think maybe, obviously just that beast mode rider Emmerich went a little bit too early. Looks like Sam Lindsay's really going to roll away with this. He timed that well, got straight on his wheel, drafted him through the flat portion, and then has pushed up the second part with a power up. So, yeah, good job, Sam Lindsay there from APAC Elite. Looks like Beast Mode will be in. Not sure who'll be second and third. You've got Emmerich, and then you've got Barry from WTRL, and then Tiem from Beast Mode sprinting up behind. So, yeah, looks like he was in fourth. So they've gathered a lot of points there. APAC Elite a bit further back with Bevan and Jones. They'll all come back together, but yeah, that even though Lindsay came across first, I think Beast Mode had quite a few more riders in that top 5.
Well, it's kind of a show of power too, isn't it? That gap didn't quite open up necessarily like they may have hoped. But we're also guessing that they were going for a bigger gap, and actually maybe what they were trying to do is break the legs like that. Sam Lindsay establishing a break on his own now. He's got 4 seconds over Emmerich. This is going to be a very long day in the saddle for him, albeit under 40 minutes. This still leaves about a solid way to go for him. It's nearly 20 kilometres, nearly 30 kilometres to the finish today. So, it's 28K in total, nearly 20 kilometres. I'll wind that back. So Sam Lindsay this is the moment I reckon he's like, oh, I need a buddy. But one buddy will not come because they've got quite a big pack chasing him. So I think he might get absorbed back in. He's only got 2 or 3 seconds. But if he can hold on to the bottom of Harlow Hill, he will actually go through and get those points through the start finish line. But they are coming back very quickly. And I want Sam Lindsay to make sure he takes a good drink and gets a bit of recovery here before the next pinch up Harlow Hill, because I want to see you doing the haka. And he's got very good form, very clearly. He needs to make sure he uses that quite wisely.
I think maybe what he was trying to do there is get a little bit of a gap so he could just roll through the sprint and get first across the line. But I'm not sure what's going to happen with that sprint because they are sort of only 2 seconds back now. We just got we'll have a look at the sprint replay of the A Division men as we just look at, looks like they're coming through the finish here, this Aero team. I mean, what a performance. Dominant display of bicycle riding from this team tonight.
Well, Butterworth and Bemrose have been, Jessica Bemrose especially, have been getting better week on week. But this is actually a pretty standout ride from Butterworth. So it's great to see her kind of given the space to excel a bit, because they don't have to worry too much about the team tactics, because they've got a solid gap between Butterworth, Bemrose and McHale from the same team back to the Z Sun riders. The four of them who are in hot pursuit, but that is a minute 33 gap now. That is huge. And as they are crossing that line there, it is Butterworth that takes the win ahead of Jessica Bemrose. And a massive day for Aero, Anna, taking all three on the podium.
Yeah, that was amazing. And looks like they've just come across sprint. We may get a replay of what happened there. See if Sam Lindsay managed to hold them off. They're about 2 seconds back as they're approaching that. But like I said, a really tricky sprint that goes downhill to start. So I would anticipate that the whole bunch caught them on that downhill because they just carry so much more momentum. So a bit of a sacrificial attack. Maybe Sam, has a bit of camera love, just wants to, here we go. He might have actually got away. He's getting pretty close to that sprint. They'll come around that right-hander, and it looks like he actually may have got this. 2 seconds back now. Yeah, he did. Great job. He got that.
Well, that's
wow,
an
so that was a great
interesting one,
strategy.
isn't it? Yeah, because they were really coming back. But something I couldn't help but notice in that view was that Sam Lindsay's flying the flag for DPAC a bit, but Beast Mode looked to come in with second, third and fourth there. So it's a numbers game that puts Beast Mode on top, but Sam Lindsay's certainly in very good form. I guess it's kind of a race within a race, right? Because it's not just about who crosses the line first, but it is about those team points. But there's still definitely some pride in who does cross that line first.
Yeah, so I like that. I was a little bit concerned before over the KOM that DPAC had dropped a ton of riders, but it looks like they've all been picked up. So we've got Vola there, let's see, Bevan, Panchico. So it looks like you've got the full suite of DPAC and the full suite of Beast Mode in this main group. I thought maybe a few had dropped off, but it looks like they've managed to get back on with that Sam Lindsay little attack off the front. But now they're just heading just through, coming through to the end of the first lap as we just look at Kong here finishing up the B women's division.
Yeah, she's got quite a solid gap here. Look at that. That's nearly 20 seconds over Kern Stokes, who we know is a very strong bike rider. This is a standout performance from her. She has been strong, particularly last week in Innsbruck. We were impressed with her, but this is quite a big dominant step up on a course like this. So good on her. She's dropping that power up as she comes into the finish, not because she needs it, but she may as well use it. And quite a bit of a mic drop from Lam Kong here. She'll take the win from the Caffeines ahead of Kern Stokes from TBR Smile On. They've got a couple of them in chasing, and it looks like the Caffeines will take first and fourth at least. TBR are sitting in second, wedged in the middle there. Oh, look at this. They might actually come up upon them here. Oh, this is actually quite tight for the finish. They won't quite catch Kern Stokes, but that was actually pretty tight toward the end there. Lucy coming across the line. TBR Smilin and Caffeines. It's not too dissimilar to what we've been seeing in the other divisions, Anna, where there's pretty tight racing for first and second. Now we've got the A men coming back here. We saw Seb from Beast Mode there for a second, but now we're watching Morgan from Evo. So great racing from the women, and I'm glad that we can look down the grades there a little bit and see what's going on, because across the board it's pretty consistent and pretty tough racing.
Yeah, it's been pretty hard. It's sure that took about 46 minutes for the C and B categories to come across. That's a pretty hard 46 minutes. So it's short racing, but it's intense, and that's what makes this course, beautiful but hard as well. And we've got on the right-hand side. Beautiful but hard.
That's how some people describe my personality, I think, Anna.
That's awesome. We've actually got someone from Yorkshire watching the race, saying that it's snowing there at the moment. So not quite what we're seeing in Zwiftland, but I'd imagine that would look very, very nice. A little bit of snow around the place. I should add that to the Zwift climate suite that they have. Maybe not some rain, but some snow. That'd be great.
Oh, well, when the World Championships were there, it was the worst possible weather conditions short of snow. They had sleet, they had the full gambit thrown at them. It's actually pretty tough racing. So I think it is quite delightful that their avatars get a little bit of sunshine. Even we did see the fog in the men, though, when they came in. So some effort has definitely been put into making it realistic. But look, the fog has lifted for the men, so that's quite nice. We're watching Aphie Reid from We Ate the Cake. They're coming into the finish now. We Ate the Cake again have taken quite a dominant approach here. It is quite a kick up. Look at this 10%. Youchie, that hurts my legs even thinking about that. We've got Natalie and Sal there with Reid. This is a pretty easy roll in from these three because they've done a tremendous job of really breaking that field up. They've got a 25-second gap on their Spin Mafia colleagues. But do you think they're going to have a sprint amongst them, Anna? I would expect to see so. Well, we may have had a little bit of a technical dropout from Anna there, which is prone to happen. It's happened to all of us. Aphie Reid from We Ate the Cake. Now, the We Ate the Cake ladies have definitely been excelling across the board, but it's actually more of a very big ups to the AHDRL community. They're the Aussie Hump Day riders, and this is the ladies. The fact that they can field so many teams in this league, that they go down to the top 5 is pretty impressive. But the sprint is on. Reid is accelerating away. She's up over 7 watts per kilo for a second there, so she really made the most of it. A big gap opened up. Natalie and Sal, it looked like they were kind of holding hands crossing the line there, but a tremendous standout ride from the three of them. So well done across the board to the women. Jodie Hamilton rolling in for Spin Mafia there. Back to the Amen, and it's Morgan from Evo. Now, he's got some pretty impressive numbers. What's interesting is if you go into Zwift Power, in the background, you can see when you're watching it live, whenever the numbers are turning red in there, you know that they're working pretty hard. We don't see that on screen. What we see on the broadcast on screen is when they go orange. We know that that's a big deal and they're moving. Let's just take a look at these bonus points so far. Sam Lindsay on 20. That is dominant performance from him, but he does need some help from his DPAC teammates. We've got Christoph Team from Beast Mode. Yeah, D-Max, listen to me. James Bevan coming in. He's sitting in third, also on 13 points, but also with Jan Emmerich. We saw that massive effort from him on that forward climb. Miguel Heidemann, we know that he's got a very massive power when he does do those medium length efforts. Seb there. So it paints an interesting picture. We've got 4 of them from Beast Mode there and 2 from DPAC. So that is a little bit outnumbered. You don't really want a scenario that's 2-1. But it is interesting when Sam Lindsay is the one quite clearly leading the way there. So coming into the finish, that'll be quite interesting. We're down to about 20 riders. There were about 56 when we first came through this section. We're actually down under 20. They've just gone over Harlow Hill. So they've only got technically one climb and one segment left, which is that forward climb. And that is where we saw the big effort from Heidemann in the last one, but ultimately Sam Lindsay really got the break there. We've got the bees on the left here, so let's take a look at what's happening over there, and we can take a look at their points so far. They have also got quite a small group. It's down to less than 20 here as well, which is interesting. They started with really large numbers, and it just goes to show how tough the course has been so far. They're actually rolling pretty well at this stage, so it doesn't look like anybody is in particular taking too much responsibility here. And we talk about a blob in the Zwift world, and that's where they're quite wide across the track. So that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing a bit of a blob forming here. We'll welcome Anna back after she had a bit of a tech flat there, maybe a power cord pulled out or something. Anna, we're taking a look at the men's Bs here. They've been racing pretty hard. They're only down to less than 20 riders, only 17 now in the front. But it looks to me like they're taking a little bit of a breather. Foot is off the accelerator for now, but that can't last for too long. They're past the halfway mark. They're on to that second lap now.
Yeah, they're sorry for the audience there. Just had a massive power surge, so obviously doing a little bit too much in my little broadcasting cave down here. But
you need to unplug the vacuum cleaner, Anna.
going on in the plugs, obviously. These riders are hitting that big this downhill here. Well, they'll get a bit more recovery, but as you were saying that they were sort of cruising along there, their heart rates are still really high. So I think they're just sort of trying to survive. They've made a good little break here from a couple of riders from Cryogen and Dirt, about 16, 17 seconds back, and then another group, I think, about 30 seconds behind that. So this could be the break here coming into the second lap, which is a nice little break to have. Looks like about 15 riders. So good job on splitting the field here in this B category.
Yeah, so they're moving. They're looking. Their race time will be just over the 40-minute mark, around 40, just shy of 42 minutes for these guys. So only a few minutes extra than the A category, which is pretty impressive. Considering that A category is kind of a quasi Premier League within itself. So pretty good riding there. Dirt there that we're seeing, that's Dad's Inside Riding Trainers. So fist pump to the fellas, to the dads out there who are getting it done. We always give a lot of kudos to the women who are multitasking with the small humans, but good on the fellas who are doing it too. And I was also saying that if we look at the back end into Zwift Power, because for all those geeks who follow along, I think they're actually like drawn to you like mosquitoes to a flame. That doesn't sound very flattering, but you get the drift. If you go into the back end of Zwift, Zwift Power, you can see those numbers, and when they're red in the average, it means that they are really hoofing along. And we're actually seeing it so far in the A's, it's largely red. So their average speed has been massive. They're now down to 20 riders. At this point on the course last time, there were over 60. So they're heading pretty quickly now to that forward climb, 1.2K, 6% average, but does pitch up over 10% in some points. And it's less than 8K to go. I think that this 20 will get reduced even further. But interesting, I would say, is the team skew within there. Beast Mode are looking pretty comfortable. They've got quite a number of riders in there. DPAC have only got a couple. They've got James Bevan, Fabian Davola, and of course Sam Lindsay as well. But it does look like they've got David Pacheco as well. So that's actually balancing out quite well between DPAC and beast mode. I think this kind of puts an opportunity out there for riders like Jeff Morgan from Evo Greg Morgan, pardon me. I feel like they're almost the underdogs in this scenario, and that might be an opportunity for them.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned though at how they dropped pretty quickly on the KOM on the first lap. I think that Deepak was doing a little bit of sort of playing with them, seeing what people had, exploring sort of the strengths other teams have, and they came up trumps. And so Ben Houston here, what's he saying? Wes, here's all yours to chase. So a little bit of chit chat going on there. Evo Love, man, the Evo riders are full noise. It's awesome. So they're in the magenta kits. You can have a look. Looks like there's only one or two riders in there, but I've got to say, like, I think Deepak really showed what they were made of on that first one, and I'd be surprised not to see them go full tilt aggression hitting this climb now.
Well, I love Magenta. It just reminds me of the old T-Mobile days, and it was a favourite team I ever rode for. I'm very proud to wear the magenta, so I love to see it in game. I also love when the teams have very clear kits that make it easy for us to differentiate between. Phoenix, we know they're in the quite bright yellow for the most part, beast motor in the orange. So it does make it a bit easier when you're looking at the riders. Look at all this orange happening. Anna, Sam
Oh,
Lindsay,
yeah.
11.3
Off
watts per
again.
kilo. He's moving. And again, you can see that there is a delay because we're seeing these huge orange numbers, but it takes a bit to catch up. Sam Lindsay, big gap has opened up. He's really clearly on form. I mean, last week we were impressed by his riding, but this week it's just the Sam Lindsay show so far.
Oh, it is. I mean, look at this. This is still riding 9 watts a kg. He's gone through the flat portion here, but he's got a good 3-4 seconds. So he's going to prove me wrong in my saying that, don't go too hard at the start because you'll get caught. Although I am seeing Emmerich there from beast mode pushing up into the orange, around 8.2 watts a kg. So Lindsay just needs to watch a little bit. He's only got 2 seconds now on Emmerich, and I think Emmerich's got something to prove, and he's got the feather power up. So I think Sam Lindsay may have gone too early here. Emmerich will roll over the top. Potentially now only 1 second behind. The finish line just comes up there, flattens out a little bit beforehand, and there we go. There's the catch and the pass. This is a definite mano-a-mano battle between these two, Beast Mode and Deepak.
Well, Emmerich packs a solid punch. He's a young rider. He's only an under 23, but he certainly knows how to ride his bike, and he's definitely showing that. That was an impressive ride from him, and you were spot on in saying don't go too early. But what we've seen here again is quite a number of the beast mode riders cross over there in that chasing pack. Lindsay and Emmerich, they've only got 2-3 seconds at the moment. If they don't consolidate that. But this is interesting that a gap in reverse has opened up as though Emmerich has taken a moment to catch his breath, and Sam Lindsay has capitalised on that and kept going. That is the most dangerous move that you ever see. Isn't on a KOM, it's straight after. It's not in a sprint, it's straight after a sprint. And Sam Lindsay, he is a savvy bike rider. This is a really impressive mood. He is taking a moment in that power tuck to get a rest. I think that we've seen a lot of orange. Certainly that would take a toll on his legs, but he does need to make sure he gets out of that quick enough because on a number of moments we've seen the delay between the orange numbers we've seen and then the gaps that have actually opened up. So they need to make sure they're anticipating that.
Yeah, Sam Lindsay did something interesting there. I might ask him about it later. He dropped his aero power up while he was in the super tuck position. I would have thought the super tuck was aero enough on its own. I'm not sure if the aero would have added benefit, but potentially that could have made him a lot faster. I would have thought saving that aero for closer to the sprint if he's going for the same strategy he did last time, which was get a bit of a gap and then take those first across the line points. But Beast Mode's having none of this. This is getting closed down by TM there from Beast Mode, and boom, there we go. And over that KOM, it looked like Beast Mode were first, third, fourth, maybe sixth. So they're cleaning up on these intermediaries, and I think Deepak needs to watch out a little bit because they're really just sacrificing Sam Lindsay here. I don't see many of their other riders in with the points.
Well, the one we need to look out for in the finish is James Bevan. Do you remember last week on the leg snapper in Innsbruck, he dropped some massive numbers. That beside anything else that happened in the race, we were like, holy moly, this fella can sprint. So if
Oh,
he's
yeah.
there at the finish, he is definitely, I mean, he'll be very difficult to beat. Sam Lindsay, look at that. He's got quite a solid lead in the intermediate sprint so far. But interesting in this one is that Emmerich, Team, and Heidemann all from beast mode, second, third, and fourth. And then down to James Bevan, who we just spoke about, who packs the punch. Emmerich having a bit of a dig there for that intermediate sprint. So that was a solid
Yeah.
move. Again, look at the points that just eventuated for beast mode. I think that was, it looked to me like that was quite a last minute thought, almost like they didn't anticipate that coming up. But that was, beast mode strategically have done a very good job, because Sam Lindsay today is showing that he's probably got the best legs of anybody out there, based on what we've seen. But beast mode have kind of shown that that isn't what counts ultimately, when it is a team's points event overall.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Beast Mode could actually win this race because their intermediaries have been really, really good. I mean, you saw there in the total points, yeah, Sam was out the front, but then it was like beast mode, beast mode, beast mode, then another rider, and then beast mode again. So as far as a team goes, I mean, these guys have just dominated all those intermediaries. May not be first across the line, but they've been doing pretty well gathering just points for those top 10 placings. So very impressive riding as a team. And, you know, this is where things start to get a bit twitchy because they're pretty close to the finish of this race. And it's just this weird kind of riding around the streets, up tiny little ups, little downs, corners. It's really hard to get a rhythm. It's really hard to relax because you can just get dropped. As you'll see here, they'll go around this corner and they'll just kick up really quick to 4%, 5%. And this is where you've got to be really, really watchful of an early attack, as we see, is it Hashimoto from ZWC pushing 7 watts a kg. This is a little dig, a bit too far away, I'd say, from the finish line, but maybe trying to draw out some early attacks. And looking at the finish line sprint for the race today, it is really tricky. It's you take a right-hand corner, but that's only about 600 meters from the finish line. You go up a very steep sort of 11% climb that lasts for about 100 meters or a bit less, and then it flattens to around 2%, and you just carry 2% to the finish. If you go too early, if you go on that climb, you're not going to win. I think sort of the best spot to go at is about 150 meters to go, but really it's hard to play that patience game. But if you can, I think that's where you're going to win the race.
Well, look, on paper, it would be very, very difficult to go past James Bevan, but Jan Emmerich also packs a pretty good punch. Hashimoto, definitely not known for his sprinting ability, but he's got 4 seconds. That's a really
Wow, they're
solid
just taking
lead.
this
It will
right.
not.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think that will extend too much further, but I don't know that he will get caught. He's in the orange as they're starting to go up this steep section. That is coming down. That 4 seconds is definitely not extending, but this is where Beast Mode need to put their riders on the front, and they need to put that chase in to give Emmerich the best chance of the sprint at the finish. This is where Sam Lindsay needs to pull for Bevan to get James Bevan in a position to win. I don't like seeing them blob across the road like this. I think that both Beast Mode
No.
and Deepak are in a position to pull this
Oh,
back. But
he's
by
going to win
looking
this.
at each other, Hashimoto might take this away, Anna. My
I think
goodness
he's got
me.
it. Oh,
What a missed opportunity. Oh, this is going to come down
oh,
pretty close.
wow. Oh my
Oh, they've
gosh.
left it too late.
Wow.
Hashimoto takes the win ahead of Bevan with a very late run from Bevan, but both Deepak and Beast Mode, I think they were caught napping a little bit there. That's a big surprise, but massive ride from Hashimoto, and good on him, because he would not have won in a straight-up sprint, but he got the jump on them, and that was impressive. Now, this is the rest. We've seen the best there. We've got the
Oh, here
rest
we
now
go. Here
coming
we
in
go.
here. And this is the, look at this repeat here.
This is amazing. I mean, I think this is what I'm going to analyze for this week because this is an attack you would never think be able to stay away that far out. And everyone, like you see, Kate, were just behind, like looking around. It's like they were all bunched up together, dropping. There you see, aero power-ups, all the power-ups been dropped while they're all sitting there together with no one pushing orange numbers. Just crazy there. And now they push orange numbers. way too late. So, man, Hashimoto, good work. There was some aggression rewarded for sure.
And isn't it interesting then to consider what's going on there? Because if Lindsay had have pulled, Bevan would have easily won that. If some of the beast mode riders, they had a number of riders there. If Christoph Thiem had have pulled, Jan Emmerich could have easily won there. However, we do need to consider that his overall the points, not just the winner, but every teammate points count. So for Lindsay to pull and then end up 10th while Bevan won is probably not the best for Deepak. Numbers, those final numbers will allow us to analyse that a little bit. We're overwatching the Bs now. We've got Verhoff from Vision here. This is a pretty small group again. I mean, as we said at the beginning, Anna, it's such a tough course because it's down to only 14 riders here.
Yeah, it's I did just want to sorry, I'm still sort of in shock that Hashimoto managed to get away. I think what's happened there is that Beast Mode are looking at Deepak, Deepak are looking at Beast Mode, and they just kind of let that rider go. To be honest, I think they were so concerned about each other that they kind of lost a bit of a feel for what was happening up the road. But yeah, as we're sitting here with the B category now, we've got a nice little group here from Evo as well. They're probably on those magenta bikes. It's actually a requirement if you're riding for Evo, I've heard, to be riding that
All right,
magenta
well, we've
bike.
got the Bs here and the Evo. They are definitely strength in numbers here. They don't have far to go. This is where they turn the corner and they kick up. It's like 10% for a couple of 100 meters before that it does flatten out to the finish. You don't want to go too early. In saying that, we just saw Hashimoto take a pretty convincing victory, surprising victory in the A's by doing that late attack. So a well-timed late attack can definitely work there. We've got 12 riders vying for the finish here. We've got to say that Adam Evans would be the one to watch. He has got the best 15-second power. In fact, his PB there is over 1100 watts. So that is wow. That is huge numbers there. So let's see if Evans has a big target on his back, because the move here has gone pretty early. We know that it's they've just gone up that 10% but now we can see the finish arch, and we are looking at quite a strung out sprint here. No one has moved in particular yet. It is just no single jump of acceleration here. Weatherall, it looks like, but here is the move going now, and that is Weatherall. He is really out of the seat. Look at that avatar accelerating. We see it going to the orange on the right. Weatherall will take the win there pretty convincingly ahead of Evans, who we did say was definitely the man to watch, but it was Weatherall who took the opportunity there to take that jump, and that was a great ride there for him to take that win. He is from the Gungnir team, Valhalla Gungnir. We've got the C's on the right of screen now. We're watching Dan Proven. They have a group only of 13 coming into the finish. They've still got 4K to go, though. So they need to make sure that these gaps don't open up too much. But we are seeing a few little gaps open up. We've got Dan Otto here from the Chances, Dave Otto. Dave Proben is another. We're very strong in this category with the Australian Hump Day riders. We're watching Jeremy Patch from the Choppers. So we need to remember that even the AHDR, they are, a lot of them in the same kit, but they are in different teams. So Otto riding for the Chances, Patch riding for the Choppers. There's a bit of a theme here with a ch going on. But they've put out some pretty solid numbers so far throughout this. Their estimated time at the end is around about the 45-minute mark. So they've got about 5 minutes left to go. That's a solid piece of work to do a 5-minute effort. So they do still need some buddies here, but some gaps have definitely opened up. They've got 16 riders coming into the finish, or 13 riders coming into the finish. We've seen across the board today that it hasn't necessarily been one big move, but it's more been whittled down through how difficult the course is. There is literally not a meter of flat. We've got the Ds now. It's so great to see all of the teams across the different community leagues. We've got Noel Kurger here, another AHDR rider. So once again, they're pretty well represented there. He's second on the road. Robbie D is a smidge in front of him there, just nearly a minute. No, just over a minute there. But they are in 1x1s here. So we've got Robbie D leading at the front, Noel Kurger on his own behind, followed by Hussey Bamford, not too far behind Hussey there. In fact, it looks like they've come together now, but then another big gap out to Elzinger, Scott and Holmes with Armstrong. They're forming a little bunch there as well. We've got
we've
the
just
C's back here on the left, and Anna, it is absolute carnage across the C and D grades.
yeah, this looks like definitely the D grade. There were just a whole lot of riders as singles there. You can just see RD NWSCC we're seeing on the right hand side of the screen. That's a lonely climb for him going up there. It's not a pleasant course to be doing on your own. So it's nice to see in the C category on the left we've got a great little bunch coming into the finish line. A few WMZ riders, some cryo riders I see in there, some AHDR choppers. So this has been a very competitive night for that C category, and they are just coming up to that finish line. Don't know if we'll see any more of those Hashimoto big attacks off the front. I'm still really impressed by how that went down, but I think these guys may take this right to the finish line. It'll be interesting to see when they open up those sprints and hit those orange numbers.
Yeah, those orange numbers, we just saw in the Bs another massive acceleration at the finish that made a big difference. I think the timing on this course is really important. We're seeing a few almost get a bit spooked by how difficult the finish is. And instead of going too early, which we warned against, they're almost leaving it a little bit too late. And so a lot of power ups being dropped here because this is the lead into the sprint. This 10%, I think, is where a lot of legs get damaged and people are a little bit nervous. But using the power ups, this is where you can make a really big difference. You don't want to go too early, but I think you also don't want to waste that really difficult section in making the other riders hurt a bit if you've still got a bit of gas left in the tank.
Yeah, and we saw all those people dropping the feathers on that climb because it goes to about 11%. So it's kind of an okay place to drop the feather. You'd think it would make sense, but you've got to put in an attack if you're going to drop the feather. You can't just really use it to hang on. I would tend to even just save the feather to now. You know, it gives you a good kick. You're on a 2% gradient. So as we see Proven here, though, having a little battle going on with Via Largo, who looks like he's going to come across the front. Great turn of pace there, about 10 watts a kg to finish that off. So awesome racing from Via Logo with, I think, Proven coming in second place. So very competitive in that C category.
It's great to see them racing all the way to the line. And we need to remember that at the end of every season, a team moves up and a team moves down based on how they've actually performed throughout the season. So it is important across the categories, not only that they go all the way to the line, but that they continue to mould and learn that art of racing within the Zwift world. And that means sprinting all the way to the line. We've got the Ds on the right of screen, and this is Robbie D, who's clearly having a very good day. He has been riding solo for a while now. But as you point out, Anna, it's a pretty lonely day out on course if you don't have any teammates out there with you or even any breakaway buddies.
Yeah, I mean, a minute 30 lead on the three chasing. So I'm not sure where he's made his attack, but he's obviously made it stick pretty well. And the benefit of that, I mean, it's lonely, but he's getting all the first across the line points fairly easily. So great job there. He might see himself moving up a category if he's putting in dominant performances like these. But yeah, that's quite a nice day out in the saddle. You know, you put in an early attack, get a bit of a lead, and then just mop up all the points as you go along.
Yeah, it's not a bad strategy, is it? Get out there and mop up all the points. I think it's actually a very effective strategy. We'll have to see what the rest of his team is doing and what all of those hump day riders are doing because there is a lot of them out on course. And I tend to think we've got one on the left of screen in the C's here, Opel riding for the chances. And I tend to think we've got Noel Kerger here from the D. Again, AHDR. There's so many of them. A chopper on the left in Atomic. When they're in a position sort of defence and they're trying to bridge across to a gap, I think that is where, even though they are on opposing teams, the Hump Day riders will have a bit of strength in numbers and they will be able to work together a little bit. But interestingly, at the front of the race, they're actually getting one or two riders who are breaking up that cohesion. We saw a cryogen rider there thrown in amongst. We've got Team Type 1 Diabetes. It's great to see them representing that cause out there with Steady here, who crosses the line. Brewer from Sabre, great ride from him as well. Janine, now this is an interesting one, Anna, because in the men's division, it's actually not men's, it's men's and mixed teams. So not often, but we do see a few ladies pop up as well, which is unreal to see the opportunity to have some mixed teams in this season, which is an upgrade from last season.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's great to have them mixed and have women step up and, race what would be a very, very different kind of a race with some men in there. I mean, that'd be great for drafting. And it looks like we've got Sandy here. So also in the mixed division, rocking the visor and the cryo kit. Obviously, maybe a budding triathlete as well if she's got that. She's got that from the Zwift running platform. Riding a little bit on her own, but yeah, good to see her out there, just taking it to the men as well. Love it.
Oh, well, Sandy, if you are a runner, you're clearly a bike rider as well. There is a duathlon racing series coming up, so that might be something that suits you well. So stay tuned for that. I believe that was actually the cause behind your vacuuming tonight, Anna. You were installing another television in front of your treadmill. So we do have the Zwift Duathlon League coming up, starting on the 17th of February, a 6-week bike and run race series. It is really simple. You ride as far as you can in 35 minutes. You have a little bit of a break because you're human and you need that. And then you get on your treadmill and you run as fast as you can, as far as you can for 15 minutes, that 10-minute transition in the middle. If that was me, Anna, that 10 minutes would be spent, or at least 9.5 minutes would be spent on the floor hyperventilating. But I think for you seasoned multi-sport athletes, it will be a little bit smoother. So it's mass start. There's a non-drafting kind of affair, so you can choose your favourite time trial bike and get into it. I think it's great that Zwift are starting to support all of these multi-sport events as well. I'm not sure, Anna, have you seen Eddie Izzard running all the marathons?
A marathon a day?
30 marathons in 30 days.
On a treadmill.
Impressive. So he's actually running them on Zwift. And people have been joining in and supporting him along the way. But it's incredible. And I think that's just goes to show that the Zwift platform is not just for the Prem League elite races, but the Community League and pretty much for anybody who wants to give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. My first foray into Zwift was actually with running, and it was because I was, I think, 8 months pregnant at the time, and I couldn't really run outside. And I jumped on and joined some run walk group, and every week we'd be doing run walks, and yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, you've got the Prem side of things, but then you've also got the super awesome community supportive side of things, and we saw that out there tonight as well. Lots of teams all the way through from A right through to D.
Well, we did. I now have a mental image of you at 8 months pregnant being able to run. Meanwhile, I looked like an elephant at 8 months pregnant. So, we all go through different experiences. Let's take a look at the results from today, and then we can unpack a little bit what happened out there. But certainly for the women, we saw some very strong performances, not too dissimilar to other weeks. But we know that Busy Butterworth has really stepped up in the ACAT. Jessica Bemrose, not far behind, and Kath McKay. The three of them made a real race of it. Danette Shaw back and forth with Grace Smith and Kiralee Carberry. So Aero and then Zed's son, Willemijn de Roo, she came in 7th, and Wakers came in 8th.
And looking at the BCAT, Lam Kong, great performance, 22 seconds ahead of Kimberly Kern-Stokes, Lucy Esdale in third, Simone M in fourth, Tess Waterhouse in fifth, Tanya Cross in sixth, Kate Braderick in seventh, Dawn Courage, great name, in eighth, Tessa Muir in ninth, and Mon Hitter, one of our faves, in 10th.
In the C, we've got Aoife Reid. She took a good win in the sprint against Victor and Sally Shuttleworth. It looked like Natalie and Sally kind of crossed the line holding hands. Their teammates, good on them. Jodie Hamilton came in fourth, another regular. Tamsin Law, Alana Van Eden in sixth, Fran M in seventh, Kaz Turner in eighth, Diane Meek in ninth, and Julie Clark in 10th.
And in the D category, we had Karen Hood in first, Deidre Simpson in second, Narelle G in third, Susan Lindsay in fourth, and very close with Mandy Westman in fifth, Alicia Blasey in sixth, Jo Leese in seventh, Libby Newman in eighth, Anne York in ninth, and Andrea Robinson in 10th.
Right, let's take a look at the men. Wasn't Hashimoto impressive? Massive move from him at the finish there. He took the win ahead of the very fast finishing James Bevan, just a little bit too late there. Clues Proctor coming in third, Ben Jones in fourth. Heidemann, we know that he has a lot of watts to give. Maybe they just need to sharpen their racecraft a tiny bit because I think they are forced to be reckoned with. Aidan Lawrence came in sixth, Sam Lindsay in seventh, Barry in eighth, Greg Morgan in ninth, and Paul O'Connell came in 10th.
And the BCAT, we had Max Weatherall in first, Adam Evans in second, Daniel Agallo in third, Andre Fugner in fourth, Jay Bester in fifth, Michael Templeton in sixth, Richard Spear in seventh, Kevin Verhoff in eighth, Dave Husband in ninth, and Trent Burlace in 10th.
Oh, good to see there's some husbands out there too, isn't it? Ton Villago, he took the win in the C division. Dave Proven coming in second. Jonathan Brook in third. Jeremy Patch in fourth. Brody Dalton came in fifth. George Greg Odds from oddspoke.com.au, he came in sixth. Hamish Wright in seventh. Tom Gallagher in eighth. Steve Yates, that's a very famous cycling name, the old Yates name, in ninth, and Dave Otto came in 10th. So let's take a look at the DCAT finish, which is just happening right now. And this is Robbie D. He had a massive break last time we looked at him. Anna, it was over a minute, but it looks like that's been reeled in a little bit. But is it just me, or does his avatar look like he's kind of just cruising along?
It really does. Looks like he's out for a bit of a Sunday ride. Heart rate of 140, RPM of 60. So I guess, it's just putting a bit of power through the pedals, but it doesn't look like he's really taxing himself too much. And that's how you look when you've got over 30 seconds on the group behind. So, yeah, nice job. That's been a really solid and impressive race.
Yeah, he's warming down. So good on him.
Yeah.
He's had a very dominant ride tonight. So it's good to see that he can also keep it efficient and just have a bit of a roll down toward the end. Big win by Robbie D tonight. We might have a bit of a sprint on our hands here between Noel Kerger and Bamford. Don't be confused by the fact that they're wearing the same jerseys. One is a chancer, one is a chopper, if I'm correct. And so they will definitely, it does actually look like they might just be rolling it into the finish here. Come on, guys, give us an interesting sprint to watch. Maybe they're not tuned in. Maybe they need to tune in for next week to make sure they listen to our cues, Anna.
Oh, they're being too nice. They're just rolling over each other. Definitely a moment there for Bamford to come through. So, and I actually do want to call out here Chris Hussey. So, I think it was the Hussies I know about. He's a good triathlete as well, putting in a nice sprint there at the end. And Hussey's profile on Zwift Power says, a fat lad trying to be less fat. So great that he's getting out there and using Zwift as a way to get less fat. I love that little tagline.
Well, good on him. I love it. I actually feel like that maybe some of the riders, even though for a lot of people Zwift is a chance to be anonymous. I feel like it gives people the opportunity to just have a little bit of fun with what they are, and you don't have to be too ashamed. I mean, if you feel like you're a little bit fat, Anna, to use his words, I don't love that word, Lycra can be pretty intimidating, but how good that he can get out there and make his avatar look pretty suave and just work on that fitness and get out there and have a good race too.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So good job, Chris Hussey, for looks like coming in fourth in Category D. And if you want to have a look at the other Category D results, head over to the WTRL website. They'll have all the results. But yeah, look like they finished pretty strong in that category. A few ones and twos, but yeah, I think it's a hard day out in the office when you're a bit heavier on that course. It can be really, really hard. So good work, those DCAT riders.
Yeah, I think we'll have a few burning lungs and pretty heavy legs coming into tomorrow. So make sure you hydrate and get some protein in, athletes, because you've put on a good show. So look, Anna, I think in every category, from the women in the A's, we've got a very big battle happening between Aero and Zed Sun. In the A's, in the men, we've got a very big battle happening with DPAC and with Beast Mode. So definitely week on week, it's worth tuning in. Thank you very much for joining us, and make sure that you jump onto the WTRL.racing to take a look at all the results, and also follow along on Zwift Power, because what can I say? Those numbers are getting interesting. Thank you for joining us for APAC. The rest of the Community League will continue on. You can stay tuned for a while and watch Anna racing if you want to do that. Look, it's entertaining for me. What can I say? And we'll see you same time, same place next week.